Eataine are the primary High Elf faction, led by Tyrion, the defender of Ulthuan and heir to the Phoenix King Anarion. Once considered to be the strongest faction in Total Warhammer 2, some hold a view that Eataine has fallen due to power creep with DLC factions, though ironically there is still almost a universal view that they are the most beginner-friendly campaign to start with. But friends, changes in Mortal Empire have led to a resurgence in Eataine's comparative strength, and now we're going to break down the faction and its strongest strategies to prove not only why Eataine is the first Mortal Empire's campaign you should play, but why Tyrion is very much in the conversation for the strongest faction. Welcome to Elven Plot Armor, and this is the Eataine Faction Mastery Guide to get you dominating on Legendary difficulty without any cheese or exploits. In this guide, we will be assessing the faction in 5 categories. We will discuss the optimal strategies you can employ to maximize each category and then award the faction a rating out of 5 stars. Once we've assessed all categories, we will arrive at an overall rating. This guide is based on my personal experiences in tandem with community feedback as well as playtesting of alternative playstyles to provide a balanced perspective. Starting with strategy, that is the campaign map navigation, as well as faction abilities, bonuses, and racial strengths on the campaign map. In terms of campaign map power, at first Tyrion doesn't appear to have anything that leaps out at you, but it's a combination of these basic abilities that creates something greater than the sum of its parts. Starting off with faction abilities, plus 20 diplomatic relations for High Elves. Now, while this doesn't seem powerful, I can assure you it is. From turn 1, you've already got things in your favour, and this will allow Tyrion to confederate all the High Elf Lords by turn 30 with relative comfort. Check the guide in the description on how to do this. This reduces the likelihood of civil wars and backlash due to confederations, while at the same time reducing the influence and gift cost incurred in obtaining confederations. -1 turns to recruitment for infantry and cavalry is also excellent. I know the first impression is that most of these units only take 1 turn to hire anyway, so why is it so good? Because it also applies to global recruitment, allowing you to instantly muster a force anywhere on the map. Also, given many late game units take 2 or more turns to recruit, this ability also scales into the late game, providing great flexibility. Lastly, there is also a 50% benefit to the construction of the Shrine of Cain, but let's just get the evil Tyrion smash meme out of the way. Building the shrine is necessary to draw the Sword of Cain, and while this is a lot of fun, and Tyrion has a unique skill line to roleplay with this is purely a role-playing perspective, and you should not go for the sword or the skill line unless you're just trying to have fun, which if you want to do, you are so welcome to. Next, we're going to talk about the leader's strength. A faction starting lord will typically have perks and abilities that will factor into their strategic strength. Always opt for the Majesty of Ulthuan line and select Unifier to give plus 20 High Elf relations, an extra public order, as well as 13% income from all buildings. Righteous cause and sense of urgency will also reduce your upkeep and benefit recruitment. Also stack with the faction abilities. When leveling up Tyrion, this should be a relatively straightforward task because he's not a caster, and you can go straight into putting 3 points into Wary to shut down ambushes and then go straight for Lightning Strike. Just put 3 points in Quartermaster and then get Feared and Renowned for a total of 23% upkeep reduction and 5% campaign movement. From here, put 3 points in Bowmaster and then 3 points in any other unit type you prefer. You can go for dragons, but you might get more mileage through combined elites to boost your Silver and Guard, which also Tyrion can reduce the upkeep for. Now, character specific abilities. Minus 50% upkeep to all basic units, as well as Silver Helms, but also Silver and Guard. Tyrion's overall theme is it's not sexy, but it works, and this ability is no different. Your initial army of spearmen and archers will be half priced, but late game having half price Silver and Guard will definitely give you more mileage. The plus 3 rank to Lothern Seaguard, well, if you see my High Elf guide, I've explained there why Lothern Seaguard are not an efficient replacement for archers, but in short, they cost the same as Sisters of Avalon and you won't recoup the outlay of replacing your archers with them. Now for other strategic considerations. Since the December patch, Morathi has become far more aggressive unifying the West and sending them there in a massive invasion of Ulthuan. This usually ravages at least half the island if you don't do anything about it. One of the biggest causes of this is that the High Elves fight between each other and leave their backs exposed to Morathi, who just stomps on them. Being able to control the diplomacy means being able to keep Ulthuan facing the real enemy, Morathi. The last advantage I'll mention here is playing as Tyrion means you don't have to confederate Tyrion. True to lore, Tyrion is highly charismatic, but his brashness does not make him the best diplomat, and if you are any other faction than Eataine, it will take a sizable commitment of time, resources, and opportunity to try and get Tyrion on board. It's quite realistic to budget, say, 20 turns to try and get Tyrion on board. At the same time, Tyrion can confederate all 6 High Elf Lords by turn 30, giving a quick payoff to any costs you outlay trying to confederate a lord. As for the available rites, Eataine get access to 4 invocations and they're all pretty good. The Invocation of All means you won't need to waste a turn in the early game to attack capitals, as this grants you Siege Attacker. Invocation of Assyrian gives a nice buff to public order and influence. Invocation of Isha means you can stroll through Morathi's Chaos Corruption without taking any attrition. And lastly, Invocation of Hoeth power levels Lore Masters of Hoeth and Mages. Finally, something that is quite overlooked is the Dilemmas at the beginning of some turns, which allow you to purchase Influence or Followers, Nation Scout, or Advisor to the King. The strategy score, Eataine are being awarded 4 out of 5 stars. Even without any faction-specific perks, the High Elf race already taps in 3.5 stars due to their easy building management, accessible heroes, and diplomacy mechanics that help them control their engagements. Eataine's faction buffs allow them to sport several small, low-level armies at once, particularly in the early game, and their confederation means that they are going to expand quite naturally without any effort. While these and their recruitment buffs I think are often overlooked, it has to be considered that these are not as good as, say, Clan Scry's Forbidden Workshop or Clan Eshin's Plunge into Anarchy, so I feel that a 4-star rating is very justified here. Next we have Geography, which is the rating for the faction's starting location, defense, and navigation ability. Tyrion begins in Lothan, one of the richest provinces in the game, far away from any major threat, meaning he's unlikely to have to defend himself from multiple fronts. The province is incredibly well defended, being in the water, meaning the Dread Fleet are the only ones likely to invade from the south, and as long as you keep your balance of power high, they are very unlikely to declare war on you. As you unite Ulthuan, concentrate on confederating the legendary lords for securing the inside of the donut. The gates surrounding the island means you won't need to build walls on your minor settlements, allowing for more economic prosperity. Ulthuan is a 4-city province in the south, meaning he doesn't need to divide his attention between the Cult of Pleasure from the west, as well as other threats from the north that Avalon needs to deal with, meaning Tyrion has 0 distractions when repelling the first Dark Elf invasion, and can completely commit to Lithanar's foothold and eliminate the Cult of Pleasure, meaning you could effectively take the Titan Peaks, Lothern, as well as Hexuatol relatively early in the game, giving 3 incredibly rich, which are all very easily defendable. Tyrion gets a perfect 5 for Geography. Next we have the Diplomacy rating, which rates a faction's nearby opportunities and threats, and the effects this will have on their expansion and control. And I'm not going to waste your time and just say straight away that Tyrion gets a perfect 5 stars here. Military engagements is largely what determines the difficulty of any Total War campaign, and Eataine are in the perfect position to quickly confederate Ulthuan whilst being far enough away from the north to avoid contact with the hostile Dark Elves and Norskins, who will declare war on you the moment that they can, and this is what makes Tyrion's starting location the strongest in the whole game. Unlike Avalon, who are encouraged to attack and defend from the north and have multiple distractions, Tyrion has no distractions and can confederate all the lords by turn 30. The influence mechanic means High Elves have a pretty hard time getting a bad rating in this, and while Tyrion doesn't get any reductions to this, like Avalon does, the diplomatic skills and faction buffs do more than enough to get you over the line here. You should typically start with confederating either Imric by first confederating Calador to see him in the southern lands, and then Alariel. From here, send boatloads of influence and cash to Eltharion to win him over, and you'll hold the east coast with no problems. I cannot stress how important it is to get Eltharion on side early, because he will declare war on you, and you do not want Ulthuan divided when Morathi attacks. This is one of Tyrion's greatest strengths with the update. With the more aggressive Dark Elves from the west, you must not have the High Elves fighting with each other, you need them united, and Tyrion does this better than any other lord, except for maybe a Lithanar. Do not deplete Ulthuan's west coast military fighting Illyrian, you need them focusing and ready for Marathi. If you're looking for a fight to pick, fight Safari because this will endear you towards Eltharion, who just simply hates them. The last character you will typically find is Teclis, and if you're playing on Legendary, holding these territories in the short term will likely spread you too thin. So I recommend leaving them there, disbanding the armies, just take the excess income and then reclaim them later. And of course the same goes for Imric's holdings, just use them for passive income and let them fall. Next we have the military rating, which assesses the military prowess and control. This will give you in engagements through the campaign. All high elf factions specialise in archers and line holding spear infantry, two of the most effective types of units in Warhammer 2. Combine this with their large monstrous units that help plug their shortcomings, and they're already pushing towards a 4-star rating just by virtue of the way this game works. And any combination of Sisters of Avalon, Silver and Guard, and characters can typically handle most armies unless they are weighted exceptionally heavy in strong mobile units or heavy artillery. Just simply not too many holes or situations the High Elves can't deal with. Now to the faction specifics, Tyrion's upkeep buffs allow for a second army to be raised incredibly early. This allows for rapid confederations with lower upkeep, as well as easy expansion and guarding of new territories. This is why I recommend keeping Tyrion's army of basic archers that you level up past level 7 to get the favourable wins benefit, and using Silver and Guard on the front line for a disgustingly cheap army which will perform well into the mid game. And when considering Eataine's recruitment reductions combined with Tyrion's skills, you're now able to raise a high tier army just about anywhere, anytime. But what about Tyrion himself? Well, we've been through that he's no single army slayer, but this is not what Tyrion is designed to do. Throw him on his horse and watch him outduel anyone in the game. Tyrion has access to 3 separate quest items, starting at level 2 with the Heart of Avalon, providing regeneration and only requiring you to capture and occupy the Phoenix Gate. The easiest way to do this is to simply defensive ally with Alariel and assign the gate as a target, so she will take it and you can just simply confederate with her once she's done it, saving you the effort of a tedious battle. Next is Sunfang, a very powerful weapon with a great area of effect spell and +3 public order to all provinces. Starting at level 10, this quest will simply have you do a series of mundane tasks, ending with constructing the Shrine of Assyrian in the middle of Ulthuan. The battle itself is incredibly easy. Simply line up your army, march forward, destroy the first army, then pivot 90 degrees to the left and rinse and repeat. This can be done with a very basic army of just Tyrion, a noble, some archers, and 4 spearmen. Finally, the Dragon Armor of Eataine, available at rank 6. The battle itself is significantly harder than the Sunfang battle, though as you can see below, it can be quite easily done with an army of basic units, but I would prefer to also have a Sun Dragon Mage to be able to give extra firepower. To stress that again, a basic army with a Fire Mage can achieve things much greater than it should. For military rating, Tyrion gets 4¼ stars, due to his strength on the field as a fighter and his ability to rock multiple armies early to mid game and spawn late game armies very quickly. It doesn't quite hold up against some of the strongest military advantages in the game, like ambush stance or being able to fast recruit large creatures into his army like Imric. Finally, we arrive at economy rating, the faction's economic power to maintain and expand its empire. Being in a rich 4-settlement province and being able to confederate everyone else, Tyrion just simply gets a solid 5-star rating here. It should be noted here that Avalon's buffs can roll in stronger towards the mid game, but Tyrion's upkeep buffs and low confederation costs put him at such a lead, he will have guaranteed control, less enemies, which means less expenses. Now we are coming to see why Eataine is so powerful, because the defensibility of Ulthuan and its gates, combined with the reduced military upkeep that Tyrion and the faction provide, means you have an easily defeated Dark Elf enemy at the start of the game and can get your hands on a 4-settlement province with minor settlements that aren't easily exposed, meaning these build slots can be used to further build your economy. The Entrepreneur trait on mages and handmaidens significantly bolsters income, and this can be so cheesy. I myself only have 1 Entrepreneur in each province, and even then money is no issue at all. But again, no shame in cheesing, go to town. Using the conscientious skill on nobles, you can increase the recruit rank of princes and princesses by placing skills in increased trade, research ability, and income buffs. These bonuses maintain even after you disband these lords, which again is cheesy, but the option is always there. Your influence can also be used to try and get people on side for early trade deals, which I do recommend. Nobles can also increase your export numbers, meaning that you can inflate your trade to give you a sizable amount of your income, as well as scope out their provinces for no charge. Coming down to the overall assessment, the High Elf race overall is already in a very strong position, which naturally has Tyrion standing quite tall. Whilst Eataine lack anything truly jaw-breaking like unique building line, and primarily specialise in buffs that will buff you in the early game, Eataine's cost reductions and recruitment benefits, which when combined with Tyrion's Confederation abilities, ensures you'll have such a head start, which will translate into a strong mid-game. Tyrion has somewhat fallen out of favour in the public eye as the strongest lord in the game, but let me ask you, when have you ever had a bad Eataine campaign? It's actually very hard to have a bad time here and very easy to recover when things don't go your way, and there's a lot of strong lords in this game that you cannot say that about. And since later versions have made Morathi far more aggressive, diplomatic skills are much more important, therefore boosting Tyrion's relative power and helping him arrive at a score of 93%. Tyrion is very much in the conversation, and he is still, in many books, the king of total war.